Hey guys, welcome back to Mike Ladd, the SEN Dad, doing another quick YouTube video. Gonna take a little break from the SEN stuff just for today. We're gonna do a all-time Premier League 11 because, yeah, why not? So I'm sure there might be some controversy about this. I'm sure there'll be lots of bias, but see what you agree with, what you disagree with. Let me know in the comments what you think. So we're gonna do only players from the Premier League era. Obviously starting with the goalkeeper, going right through to centre forward, doing a kind of 4-3-3 kind of formation. So yeah, like and subscribe as well. So the first position, man, I was trying to get a system where I'd put on Teams and share my screen and make it look really cool, but I can't work out how to do that. As anyone knows, I'm not very good with technology. I will get there, I promise. I'm making head waves on it, but I just want to get the videos out there. So yeah, first position, obviously in goal. We're going to have the little, look, let's see. And have a little team here. Yeah. So number one in goal, I'm gonna go with Peter Cech. I'm gonna do a little bracket here. You can see Peter Cech. Yeah, look at the handwriting textbook. And I'm gonna say Chelsea. Yeah. Because obviously everyone knows he did play for Arsenal. Now his Arsenal time I think is actually a little bit underrated. And people say he was poor and he was terrible. He wasn't the same goalkeeper. But I actually thought it was okay for Arsenal. It was a 5 or 6 out of 10 period. And we had one particularly good game against Liverpool. And at that stage, goalkeepers were expected to do 5-10 yards, 10-yard passes in between the lines and basically play as sweepers. And he wasn't quite that keeper. And I think his heart wasn't really in it. I think he went back to Chelsea as a coach, which kind of showed you where his heart was. But that Chelsea team, he was an absolutely outstanding keeper. Shot stopping, I don't think I've seen a keeper who's better. His command of the area, excellent. Caught crosses, gave so much confidence to his back four. That Chelsea team, they still hold the record for the lowest amount of goals conceded. I think it's 15. Now they had John Terry and Carvalho in front of them. Carvalho is another player who's very underrated. Makelele in front of them. So in an excellent defence, but they were, defence can fall apart without a good goalkeeper because he just breathes that confidence, and he was everything. He was fantastic. The keepers could have been David Seaman, Peter Schmeichel. Yeah, they were a little bit before my time. So some people will be watching this thinking, it's not really a fair video because I was born when the Premier League was starting. I remember David Seaman and Schmeichel because obviously as an Arsenal fan, that United-Arsenal rivalry, but most people that back then didn't have Sky, so you didn't see them as often. And so that's why I've kind of just about given it to Cech. And I also think, I know Cech, when he went to Arsenal, he was trying to play those, that sweeper keeper role, he couldn't really do it. But he was actually a lot better with his feet than people give him credit for. He could, with both feet, left and right, he could really direct that ball 50, 60 yards right onto the centre forward's head. Normally Drogba would control it or take it down or nod it off. So he was actually a lot better with his feet than he gets credit for. So I think he's a little bit in between that era of, actual just shot stoppers and the kind of sweeper keeper roles that, Neuer has made famous now. And David Raya is doing very well for my team, Arsenal. So yeah, that's my keeper. Yeah, look at this. Yeah. So right back, I'm going to go with Kyle Walker. Yeah, I don't know. You can see. Yeah. So now I remember watching Kyle Walker years ago. He came through at Sheffield United, and I kind of followed Sheffield United's academy at the time because I've got family who are Sheffield United fans. And during a similar time, they didn't all come through the same year, but they came through within the same kind of 5 years. It was Kyle Walker, Harry Maguire, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin all went on to have very, very strong Premier League careers. And Kyle Walker and Maguire basically went on to make, nearly 200 caps between them for England. And Calvert-Lewin didn't get injured so often, and I think he would have had a much more stellar England career. Kyle Walker, I remember as well watching him on loan at QPR, where he ran games from right back. That was before the inverted thing became an official tactic that is so popular now, or was popular 5 years ago. And he would do that for QPR in the Championship at 18 years old. And if you could, perform at that level in the Championship, you can do it in the Premier League for me, because the Championship is such a high quality league and it is so physical. Kyle Walker, 6 Premier League titles, 2 FA Cups, 1 Champions League. So quick, so good defensively. His positioning really improved when he got to 31, 32, when his pace began to wane. Going forward, he was excellent. Could score goals, could beat people, could get crosses in. It was just such a strong physical presence as well. Just an excellent player. Other players that could have been there, Gary Neville, part of that fantastic Man United team. Great crosser of a ball, but I just think Kyle Walker's a bit more of a complete footballer. There's a few others, I love Bakary Sagna. I think he was a wonderful footballer, very consistent, but maybe never had the success that, you know, someone like Kyle Walker had. So just about gave it to Kyle Walker. All right, let's move into centre halves. Right, this is where I think I'm going to be a little bit controversial. So, and a little bit biased, not to my team actually, but to, you know, the footballers I kind of like. So right-sided centre half, yeah, you see. So I'm going to go with Nemanja Vidic. Okay, now Vidic, who played for Man United, was everything that I love in a centre half. He was strong, he was fierce, won every duel, great in the air, was so good from set pieces as well. You know, could win headers, score goals. I know he had a couple of really tough days against people like Fernando Torres, but he was so tough and so strong, and a bit like what I was like when I thought I was going to be a defender. And I played centre half, was moved to right back fairly quickly. Such a fantastic player, and you know, 5 Premier League wins, 1 Champions League, you know, 80 or I think 55, 56 caps with Serbia. You know, just a brilliant footballer. All right, next one. Now I've been a bit cheeky here because this person had quite a lot of his career in the old First Division. So he wasn't just a Premier League player, but football didn't start in 1992 or whatever year the Premier League was. So I'm going to go, I think it's the wrong way around, isn't it? Yeah, might be. You see that? All right. Number 4, I'm going to go with Mr. Arsenal, Tony Adams. Yeah. Left-sided centre-half, which is where he actually preferred playing. Now, Tony Adams was a 2-time Premier League winner, 2 First Division winner as well, 3 FA Cups, and Team of the Year 5 times. Yeah. And also Ballon d'Or nominated. Yeah, people forget that. Also, Arsenal England captain. Tony Adams embodied what it was to be an Arsenal player. You know, loved the club, one club man, captain, pure passion and drive to win games and be the Arsenal representative. Someone who gave it his all on the pitch. Again, a bit like Vidic, so strong, so good in the air, a lot better on the ball than people gave him credit for. And if you read his book, Addiction, you know, what he came back from 96 after a long period of alcohol abuse, which he was, you know, able to kind of manage at one point and still have a football career, which is incredible. And, you know, he spent time in prison. To come back from that when his football career wasn't just under threat, but his life was. And, you know, to win the double with Arsenal in 2002, to go on to be a fantastic player in Arsene Wenger's team, not just George Graham's team, and, you know, 2 different styles of management. Arsene Wenger a lot more attacking, a lot more ball on the floor. George Graham a bit more defensive. And Tony Adams, Wenger was a much less micromanager than George Graham. You know, he wanted players to express themselves more, have a bit more freedom. George Graham focused a bit more on the opposition. And Adams had to transition for that, like a lot of players did. And it wasn't easy, but he did it. And, you know, he was just a hero to so many people, a hero to, you know, most Arsenal fans of my generation, I would say, and, you know, maybe to some England fans as well. Now, controversial, Rio Ferdinand could easily be in this team. What a defender. So good on the ball as well, that kind of ball-playing centre-half, which I know people kind of think is a bit new, but it's not. I mean, Beckenbauer was apparently like that in the 60s. So I think football goes in cycles a bit more than people give it credit to. People say. I could have given this to Sol Campbell as well, who I absolutely loved. He was another no-nonsense defender. No one ever really got past him. He was so strong, so fierce. You know, John Terry could easily be in this team as well. What a player he was. And he was another one much better on the ball than people gave him credit for. So again, if you disagree, get in the comments and we'll have a discussion. Now, this next position is an interesting one because actually, I think this position is the only one that I don't think there's actually much of a debate. So I'm going to go with, you see, Ashley Cole. I think Ashley Cole is possibly the greatest left back to ever play the game. I am when he first came through at Arsenal, and he only came through because Silvinho had a dodgy passport. Silvinho was a wonderful player as well. But Cole at that stage was a winger, midfielder, striker, I think, in the academy. Converted to left back, which was what Wenger did so much and what so many managers do these days. Look at people like Walker, even Miles Lewis-Skelly. But he was so good going forward. He raced up and down that left flank, such pace and energy, linking up with Pires and Thierry Henry. And people used to question him defensively, and maybe there was some truth in that in the early days, but he became such a fantastic defender. His positioning was excellent. Very rarely anyone got the better of him. You know, Cristiano Ronaldo had nightmares against Ashley Cole. He often had to switch flanks. Knew when to dive in, knew when to drop off. Just a proper student of the game. And that's what I want to remember Ashley Cole as an Arsenal fan. He's always a bit of a controversial figure, but he was a fantastic footballer, you know. And I don't think there's any, debate. Could you have Patrice Evra, fantastic player, part of that kind of second or third Fergie era, won everything more or less. Dennis Irwin, who a bit of an underrated player, maybe not as glamorous, but great defender, could smash in free kicks as well. But for me, Ashley Cole just edges it. Technical ability, pace, fitness, going forward defensively, just a brilliant footballer. Look at the, 3 Premier League winners, 7 FA Cup winner, which might be a record. He also won the Champions League with Chelsea as well. Very stellar England career, played across 5 tournaments. I think got over 100 caps in the end. So, yeah, brilliant player. Right, we'll move on to the midfield. Now, I had a little bit of a think. You could just pick the best players for something like this because it is a game. It's not supposed to be serious. But I wanted to think, all right, imagine if this team were actually playing. And let's try and get a team together that could work on the pitch. So I've gone with a DM position. You can see it here, number 6, Patrick Vieira. So Vieira, you could have had Makelele in this role. They actually call it the Makelele role now, don't they? N'Golo Kante could be there. What a player he was. Now that Leicester City Premier League win will go down in history. But Vieira, for me, obviously as an Arsenal fan, he had this kind of reputation for being aggressive and being strong, and he was. And look at his discipline record. But he used to dive in with these sliding tackles where you'd wince as he dived in because he was so strong and so big. But you just dive in and then get the ball and barely touch the player. It was like watching artistry. It really was. It was fantastic. With his long legs, he'd dive in, get the ball. The player would barely be affected, but the ball would be gone, and then he'd be running up the pitch. And he also was someone who could drive attacks, particularly if Arsenal were losing games. He'd get on the ball, drive forward, try and get the team going. And took on that captain's role from Tony Adams so well. That rivalry of Roy Keane could also be in this team, was, defined the Premier League era for me. They really had some battles really going at it, 2 fierce competitors. Now, that was the kind of theatre of it. They're both wonderful footballers, but they added to it with their kind of aggression and their kind of rivalry going at each other. And they really were brilliant players. So Vieira being that defensive midfield role. All right, so attacking, also 3-time Premier League winner as well. He also won the FA Cup with Man City. People forget. He came back to the Premier League as an older player after Juventus. We played for Man City a bit. So Yaya Toure, not really a defensive midfielder, but he was someone I thought about. What a player he was. I remember him scoring that final in the Carabao Cup. It was the Carling Cup final then or something against Sunderland. Brilliant goal. But yeah, just about went with Vieira. He just shaded it. All right, so my 2 attacking midfielders. Now, I've gone with, here we go, look, I'm going to write this one, if you can see it. Gerrard. Yeah? Look at my handwriting. This is what you call teacher handwriting. Now, Gerrard, I think, is the only one in this list who didn't actually win the Premier League. And I think sometimes people get a bit focused on what players won. Football is about trophies, of course, but it's about so much more than that. It's about the moments. It's about going to games. It's about the fans. It's about what the players mean to people. And Gerrard was everything. He was Mr. Liverpool for a while. Look at all the great players Liverpool have had, even in Steven Gerrard's team. He played with people like Fernando Torres. And Michael Owen in his early days. But there were periods where he would win games generally by himself because he was at Liverpool for his whole career. I think he might have gone somewhere else. Correct me in the comments. And he would win games generally on his own. Like the FA Cup against West Ham, they weren't playing well, smashed it into the net last minute. That Champions League final, they had Xabi Alonso on the pitch. He was a fantastic player as well. But Gerrard pushed that. He got the first goal back. That was basically the Gerrard final, and against a great Milan team. Milan team that was so dominant first half. And Gerrard basically was the difference maker. He was so quick as well. I know he could smash balls in. He had great control, and he was wonderful technically. But he was so fast as well. He was such a fantastic athlete. And really was a great leader, inspirational, brilliant footballer. I couldn't leave Steven Gerrard out. And I know he didn't win the Premier League, but he was a 2-time FA Cup winner, a 1-time Champions League winner, which I mentioned, and also Premier League Team of the Year 8 times. So that gives you an idea of how consistent he was. And then I've gone with number 8, my other attacking midfielder. See this? KDB. Kevin De Bruyne. Now, Kevin De Bruyne actually thinks a little bit underrated. I know people might say, what are you talking about? I think he was one of the best players to ever play in the Premier League. He's certainly one of the best players I've ever seen. Technically wonderful. First touch, passing, movement, the long shots, scoring goals, moving past people. The man just had everything. He was elegant, he was strong, he was silky, efficient, just everything you want in a footballer. I think some of the Belgian coaches described him as the most intelligent player that they'd ever worked with. You know, his ability, his vision, his ability to pick out passes, his ability to read a game, to dominate a game. It was just absolutely fantastic. And he kind of was the face, I would say, of that City era. The Pep City era, which has been so dominant, 4 Premier Leagues in a row, a treble, you know, all those trophies I would associate with a lot of players, but I'd associate almost mainly with Kevin De Bruyne. You know, 6-time Premier League winner, 2-time FA Cup winner, 5-time Premier League Team of the Year. Yeah, the stats there kind of speak for themselves. An absolutely phenomenal footballer. You know, they could have had Frank Lampard in here, or a goal scoring midfielder. I mean, his ability to score goals was fantastic. So strong as well. So aggressive, a great competitor, making it now after a couple of difficult jobs as a manager now at Coventry. So that'll be interesting to watch after, you know, some difficult periods at Chelsea and Everton. He could have easily been in this list. It's probably more, if you want, get in the comments and tell me who you'd have in there. Let's do the front three now. Let's do the front three. Right, on the right, I'm going to go with, you see, Mo Salah. Yeah. Now, Mo Salah for me, I mentioned Kevin De Bruyne earlier. De Bruyne and Salah, I think, have defined the last 5-6 years of the Premier League. That rivalry between Man City and Liverpool was all a bit nice for me, or they were all a bit too respectful. I'm glad Arsenal making it a little bit more of a nasty rivalry. But they define this era. Mo Salah's numbers are just insane. I think I've got them written down here. 189 goals in 310 games. I mean, that's just brilliant. He's so efficient. Scoring goals, finishing, which is always the hardest thing to do on a football pitch. It's just absolutely fantastic. I remember seeing him at Chelsea. He did look like he had talent. He never really got the opportunities there, but he obviously went away, I think Basel he went to, and then Roma, and really, really worked on his game. And he became one of the greatest goal scorers we've seen in the Premier League era over the last 30 years. Became a Liverpool legend, you know, up there with Gerrard, who I mentioned. Suarez is someone I could have in this list. What a fantastic footballer he was. The reason why I've not got Suarez is because probably only had 3 or 4 years here at the very top of his game. There's probably a few players you could add that I've got in here who you could apply that to. But I think Salah just was the face of that Liverpool era. Probably if you ask a Liverpool fan who would define Liverpool in the whole Premier League, arguably, Gerrard would be up there, as I said, but so would Mo Salah, those two. You know, you got Van Dijk as well, who could have been in this team. But yeah, Mo Salah, just the Egyptian king. What a footballer. Right, on the left, there's only really one winner on the left-hand side here. That is, for me, the greatest player to ever play in the Premier League, Thierry Henry. Stats kind of speak for themselves. 174 goals in 254 games, and also 74 assists. And he also has the assist record tied actually with Kevin De Bruyne, which I think is 20. I know last season Bukayo Saka was on for possibly levelling it or breaking it, but unfortunately got injured. Thierry Henry is the greatest player I think I've ever seen. I remember watching him at Ellen Road against a kind of struggling Leeds team, a Leeds team that were, I think, relegated a year or two afterwards. I think it was the first Premier League team to ever field 7 black players as well. Someone will look that up in the comments or look it up on ChatGPT. And it was like watching a stallion. He'd get the ball and run, and the Leeds defenders had no idea how to handle him. They didn't know if to go or back off. The fear he instilled in people was just, you could feel it. You could feel the tension. And when he got near goal, he'd slot it in. He'd just, like, almost like he was passing into the net. He didn't try and break the net like, you know, someone like a Hasselbank would. A touch, unbelievable vision, his ability to get assists as well. You know, the partnership with Bergkamp. I've not got Bergkamp in this team, but what a player he was. You know, they don't make players like that anymore, you know, who are that gifted and that elegant. You know, Cantona, not in this team either. Another player who was just so gifted. But Henry, pace, scoring, precision. 2-time Premier League winner as well, 2-time FA Cup winner, you know, went on to Barcelona to win the Champions League. He obviously had a lot of success at international level, over 100 caps for France. I think he won the World Cup and the Euro, basically won everything in his career. You know, phenomenal player. And for me, the greatest player to ever play in the Premier League. And then the man through the middle, I'm going to go with Shearer. Now, Shearer still has, and probably will have for a long time, maybe even forever, the Premier League record for goals. 283 goals in 559 games it is. So even though he played till well into his 30s, he was basically still averaging 1 in every 2. A phenomenal goal scorer. His ability in the air was just insane. I remember Norberto Solano, what player he was, would just lob balls in and Shearer would just rise and head them in. His long shots, finishing, hold-up play, aggression, it's just everything. He was a fantastic footballer. A good England career as well. Probably retired from England a bit too early. People might be saying, oh, you said Gerrard's the only one not to win the Premier League, but he actually did win the league at Blackburn. You know, that early Blackburn Premier League win, where they got that, Chris Sutton. I hate my front with Chris Sutton, the SAS. What a combination that was in the early Premier League days. Yeah, I mean, who else could have been in this list? You know, possibly Cristiano Ronaldo. I mean, he was a very, very good player in the Premier League. And then he had that 1 year where he rose to that outstanding level, that above world-class level, even above legendary level, arguably freak level, which him and Messi have got to. Well, I think he scored something like 50 goals in all games. But then he left quite shortly after that. So I don't think we saw the very best of Cristiano Ronaldo in the Premier League. He went to Real Madrid and obviously went on to have that insane career that he had. But yeah, he can be in this list. You know, there's players that I love that, you know, probably shouldn't be in all-time Premier League 11, but are wonderful players. Look at Gianfranco Zola, what a fantastic player he was. You know, free kicks, dribbling, you know, scoring goals. You know, there's probably several others. I'll do a bench at some point, okay? But that's my all-time Premier League 11. I'll just go through it quickly. Look at this. Yeah, look at this. Yeah, technology. So that's Peter Cech in goal, Chelsea, Peter Cech. Kyle Walker, Manny Vidic, Tony Adams, Ashley Cole, Patrick Vieira in the DM, Gerrard and KDB, Kevin De Bruyne, and front three are Mo Salah on the right, Thierry Henry on the left, and Alan Shearer through the middle as number 9. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm sure you've got loads of opinions. Put them in the comments. Like and subscribe to Mike Ladd, the SEN Dad.